शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay. So, if you remember, in the last sessions we were looking at Vedic literature. We had started about the base of Vedic literature, Shrutis, Smritis and so on. And finally now we have reached with the Puranas that are there. So, we have just started with an introduction of the Puranas. Now, I told you that though it has been mentioned that it is written by one sage Vedavyasa, I told you there can be certain time period because Vyasa is not a proper noun. It is like a title which is given for a person who has compiled the Vedas or compiled the Puranas. So therefore, because of the differences in the time periods, we cannot very nicely say that it is one and only the same person. But yes, there can be, it is done by Vyasa. Majorly Puranas are done by the same person, it is said. But yes, there are a few differences. Therefore, you can say it's like a conflict. So now the names of 18 main Puranas. You also have 18 other Upa Puranas too. Markandeya Purana, Matsya Purana, Bhagavata Purana, Bhavishya Brahmanda Brahma Brahma Vaivarta, Vishnu Varaha Vamana Vayu, Agni Narada Padma Linga Garuda Kurma Skanda. Now why it has been mentioned in this order is because you have a verse to remember all the 18 Puranas. I'm just reciting the verse now. I will be sharing the verse later. Madhvayam bhadvayam chaiva bratrayam vachatuštayam anapalinga kuskani puranani prachakshati. Few of you might be aware of this, but few might seem that this is something new. Madhvayam, ma two Puranas starting with va, ma, Markandeya Purana, Matsya Purana. So Madhvayam, Bhadvayam, Madhvayam, Bhadvayam, Bha, Bhagavata Puranam, Bhavishyat Puranam. So Madhvayam, Bhadvayam, Chaiva, Bratrayam, Brahmanda, Brahma, Brahma Vaivarta, Bratrayam, Vachatuštayam, Va four, Vishnu, Varaha, Vamana, Vayu. Next everything, there is no similarity. So, the initial of the first letter of all the Puranas, A, Na, Pa. Agni Purana, Narada Purana, Padma Purana. Linga, Garuda. Ku, Kurma. Ska, Skanda. Skani, Puranani, Prachakshati. I will share this verse later so it will make more sense. So basically this verse, why it was, it is not a part of the Puranas also, but earlier it was being told, especially children study in the Gurukulas also. If you remember this verse, it becomes easy to remember the names of all the 18 Puranas. So therefore such verses used to be composed so that it becomes easy to memorize the names of the 18 Puranas. Now if you see all these Puranas, the subject matter we have already discussed. It talks about geography, it talks about a lot of pilgrimage places, it talks about dynasties of various kings, Vamshaha, history. So basically Puranas, we cannot just consider them to be mainly history or just in the form of stories also. They talk about a lot of things like rituals, religious practices. Even you have the mention of other religions also in a Purana. Can anyone guess in which Purana do we have significance or mention of other religions that are told? Those who attend the Purana classes, you should know this. Is there anyone like that? No one. Okay. In the Bhavishyat Purana, just for your reference, if you want extra information, Bhavishyat Purana, you have reference of even other religions that are prevalent, that is even Islam, Buddhism, Christianity and so on. All this also has been mentioned in Bhavishyat Purana. Bhavishya, meaning what will happen in future. So in future, that's how we have Muslims coming in India, or we have Buddhists, or how all these religions also developed in India. Bhavishyat Purana is evident to this. It has got a mention that Muhammad will come, how we have Mecca, Medina, such religious places. Similarly, the growth of Muhammad and so on. So all this has been mentioned there. So those are interested, these are all, you can say, like interesting information, right? So that's the reason you see all our scriptures that are there, it talks about, it's very you can say it's wide, and it even accepts and talks about other religions, other practices that are there. So the problem that we have, or a lot of clashes, or we feel, no, I am high, I am low, it's all man-made. It's just because human beings have a confusion. In fact, all our scriptures, or you see all the books, they respect everything, whatever is about to happen, all those predictions are being told. And through this, another thing which we can conclude is that our scriptures, or maybe it can be Veda Vyasa or anyone, whoever has written all these scriptures or done the work of compiling, they would have been what kind of scholars that whatever was to happen in future, they have predicted it very nicely, and we saw the same. How Muhammad came in, how other kings came in, even the history of various kings has been mentioned in Bhavishya Purana. In other Puranas also you have, but especially in the Bhavishyat Purana, prediction of future, or even in the Srimad Bhagavatam you have what will happen in the Kali Yuga and so on, to some extent. Now I am not saying that it is for true, it is going to happen the same thing has happened. I have read, so I can believe in that. So all of you also, if you read, you can believe in. But it is my suggestion is, how much ever people tell us something, only when we read it or see something by ourselves, we can believe that 100%. And second, you can say a good advantage of this is we get used to reading the original scriptures, which is very, very important. So these are all few things that are highlighted. So these Puranas, therefore, we must be very proud and consider that none of our scriptures are just like fiction or imagination. Because if it was mere fiction or so, whatever mentioned in that would never turn out to be true. Okay, so this is just one example that is there of the Puranas. Like this, each of these Puranas, Markandeya talks about the story of Markandeya, who falls in the list of Chiranjeevis. He is the Ashta Chiranjeevi. Matsya Purana. Now please note one thing, that irrespective of the names of each Purana, now say for example, if it is Matsya Purana, it doesn't mean that it talks only about the Matsyavatara of Lord Vishnu. That is just one part. Sometimes it might happen that, or even for that example, Bhagavata Purana, though it talks about Krishna Leela stories, it is not limited to that. In fact, the story of Krishna, now Bhagavata Purana for example, it is divided into 12 skandhas, right? 12 parts. Only the 10th skandha is where the story of Krishna starts. The first 9 skandhas, it starts from the topic of creation, this, that, different dynasties, different kings, different histories, different practices, different rituals. First 10 skandhas, or first 9 skandhas, or you can say the major part of the skandhas, it talks about, of the Bhagavata Purana, talks about all other things. Though Bhagavata Purana mainly tells that it talks about Krishna Leela stories, the stories of Krishna start only in the 10th skandha. 11th skandha is all about philosophical moksha skandha, 12th skandha is like conclusion, future predictions and so on. I'm just giving you one example of the Srimad Bhagavata Purana. Like this, so therefore, through this what we can conclude is that irrespective of the name of the Purana, you have other things also that are there in each of the Puranas. Matsya Purana doesn't mean only Matsyavatara will be mentioned. Kurma Purana doesn't mean only Kurma Avatara will be mentioned. Narada Purana talks about a lot of rituals and vratas that are to be followed, especially the Dwadashi Vrata which has to be followed. All of us, we know about Ekadashi Vrata. Narada Purana specifies about Dwadashi Vrata. Throughout the year on all the Dwadashis, Vratas has to be performed. Agni Purana talks about Dhanurveda, which we are going to see next. The next topic is Dhanurveda. So like this, there are a lot of things, and in fact just yesterday also we were discussing in the Agni Purana about property rights and so on. All that also has been mentioned in the Agni Purana. So like this, you have each of these Puranas that are there. Linga Purana mainly talks a lot about Shiva Linga origin, as the name suggests, and a lot of Shiva practices and so on. Skanda Purana relates to the stories of Lord Kartikeya. And further, other concepts are also covered. Now it's not that only about stories of kings, gods and so on. In general, something like I told you about property rights in Agni Purana and so on. So even generalized topics are also covered. How temples should be constructed, what is the way, what are the rules to be followed. So basically even the signs of good omens, bad omens, superstitions. So it is like whatever we come across today in life, whether it is good or bad, whatever you see in the society or whatever we see around us, nothing is haywire. Through the study of the Puranas, we can surely conclude this. For this now, all of you, it is better you go through the original scriptures. Little whatever I have gone through, therefore I can say this. So, whether we believe or we not believe, it's everyone's personal choice. but still we can just be surprised to think that everything has been mentioned in detail. Say for example, we believe in so many superstitions, right? Cat crosses your path, or a crow is shouting, something good will happen, or my left eye is twinkling, something like that. We associate it with omens, and then we just put it into a list of superstitions or andhashraddha. It can be andhashraddha, it can be superstitions, but the conclusion is that whatever our elders told or our grandparents told, from where did they tell? They did not make up their own stories. It has got a reference somewhere, and that reference is there in the Agni Purana. It is not mentioned there that this you have to believe, this will surely turn out to be true. That has not been mentioned, but yes, such things are told. This is what is mentioned in the Agni Purana. So basically, things that we see around today, or maybe people tell us something, though we feel that they just speak from somewhere, some reference is still there. Whatever human beings speak, somewhere that mention has been made in our culture. This is what it proves. So these are like this a few aspects of the Puranas. Further, Garuda Purana talks a lot about life after hell, because our philosophy, our culture believes in life after death, hell, heaven, and so on. There are 7 different parts of heaven, 7 different parts of hell: Brahmaloka, Indraloka, Swargaloka, and so on. Heaven, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala, and so on. Hell. And then earth is there in between. Depending on one's karma, one's actions, you go to heaven or hell. And what kind of action you do, depending on that, what kind of fruits you will get, or what kind of punishments you will get, which heaven you will go, which hell you will go, all that is mentioned. Then you also have the rituals of Shraddha Karma, that is when a person dies, what are the different duties, why so many rites have to be done, all that is also specified in the Garuda Purana. Now with regards to Garuda Purana, people say that you should not read the Garuda Purana, or you should not keep the Garuda Purana at home. It can, because now the only thing why such things are told is because the matter is disturbing. What is told in the Garuda Purana can be disturbing to people, but ultimately it is the truth. Truth is whatever is there, whatever people we believe in, that's what you do. Like say for example, somebody tells that no, you should not go to a smashana, it is evil. Ultimately, if you need, you have to go to the smashana, right? But it's not that every day, no, I'm just going about, strolling about here and there. I went inside the smashana, just saw how it is, and I came back. We don't do that, right? It's not a place to roam about. But yes, that doesn't mean that nobody can avoid going to a smashana. When needed also, you have to go to a smashana bhumi, a cremation ground. So it doesn't mean that the place itself is bad. But casually in our everyday life, we don't just go to make a picnic or so there. So Garuda Purana also, for that matter, why it is told is whatever is mentioned in that can be disturbing, but for that reason doesn't mean that you don't keep it at your house or you never touch it. Only if you touch and open and see, you'll know what is mentioned inside. So only the subject matter can be a bit disturbing, that too for a few people. Just as now when we see a video or so, or you see a movie, some movies are 18 plus, right? Or you see a movie or some video clip is being shown, sometimes you have a disclaimer saying visuals are disturbing and so on. So it can be disturbing, but we cannot avoid the reality, right? You cannot, for that, okay, just because it is disturbing doesn't mean that it is false. Same thing happens with Garuda Purana. Why I told you this is, you should be free from all these kinds of thoughts and beliefs that people tell us. Don't keep the Mahabharata at home, don't keep the Garuda Purana. You keep the Garuda Purana or you don't keep the Garuda Purana, a person in a house is going to die at one point of time, right? And in fact, Garuda Purana is read after a death or so takes place, so that the entire environment becomes pure. This is what is said so. Mahabharata should not be kept in one's house because it might lead to fights. Without the Mahabharata also, we are anyways fighting, so it doesn't make any sense. In fact, Mahabharata has blessed the world with Pancharatnani. When we look at Itihasas part, I'll tell you more. The Gita, the best part. I can keep the Gita book, but I cannot keep the father of Gita, that is Mahabharata. Why father of Gita? Because Gita is a part of Mahabharata. So, the thing is, when we know about so many scriptures also, but practically maybe there could have been a reason why it was being told is Mahabharata, if you see, the original Mahabharata has got about 10 to 11 volumes. So, nowadays if you have a small house or so, practically it might become difficult to keep the books. That is the reason why most of the people avoided keeping the books. They used to buy a small, like an abridged story book or so of Mahabharata, and they used to keep it. This can be something which is logical. But no, you keep the Mahabharata, it will lead to fights, because the Mahabharata is all about the Kurukshetra war. Without keeping the Mahabharata, if you are not fighting at all, then well and good, you need not keep the Mahabharata. But then without that also, anyways we are fighting, right? Every day you get up in the morning, right from morning till night, at least once you have an argument. Maybe it can be on a small level also, but we cannot avoid fights for that. So the thing is, why I am telling you all this is, we have to be free from all kinds of thoughts. People tell, in the case of telling or advising someone, and we end up advising people to such an extent that it seems to be too, you can say, foolish or too silly to believe things. So therefore we have to be free from this. Someone told me something, therefore I should never open the Mahabharata, I should never open the Garuda Purana and read. We should never do this. So please be aware of this. Especially with regards to Puranas, it is told Puranas can be disturbing, or Purana stories are all false. False or true or fiction or it's non-fiction, let's not get into that debate at all. Something has been told with a lot of research, with numerical values also. So therefore when something has been mentioned so much in detail, it is on the higher side that it cannot be fiction. But yes, we have not seen that, or I myself have not seen. Maybe if you have not seen, you need not believe whether it is true or so. But just because you have not seen doesn't mean that it is false too. So therefore getting into the debate of something is true or no is like total, you can say, nonsense, because the total, all the Puranas together constitute about 4 lakh verses in all. 4 lakh verses in all, and that too after compilation, it seems, of Vyasa. There used to be about more than 1 crore verses that were put about here and there, constituting all the Puranas. Out of that, roughly about 4 lakh verses, Vyasa has nicely compiled into 18 parts and a few Upapuranas. Markandeya Purana, okay, Matsya Purana, so many verses are there. Markandeya Purana, so many verses are there. Bhagavata Purana, 18,000 verses. Skanda Purana, 81,000 verses. Agni Purana, 15,000 verses, and so on. So he has compiled it this way for our easy understanding. So when something is fiction also, maybe the quantity will be less. Crore verses, nobody can write fiction also. So again, the debate is not whether something is false or true, but yes, Puranas have a few stories, or you can say like some information which maybe we can believe, or it is hard to believe. It can become difficult to believe. Like say for example, I'll tell you, when nowadays some news is, we come across some news also, or so many messages we get on WhatsApp, right? We don't believe, looking at, no, this is fake news, we say, right? So it can be fake also, but then that doesn't mean that we don't come across that news, right? Maybe for us it seems to be fake, some people might also believe it. So even the Puranic stories also, not everything, but sometimes some stories or some information at times, just because we have not come across anything like this before, might seem to be fake, but that doesn't mean it will be fake. So therefore we must never conclude that something is false or something is true. How much ever you can interpret it and leave it. Okay, so these are the list of 18 Puranas. Further, so with this the Puranas ends. Next is Itihasam. Shrutis we have seen, Smritis we have seen, next is Puranas we have seen, next comes Itihasa. Okay, Puranas, did everyone, could you follow? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Itihasa. Now when you break this word itself, Itihasa, it means thus it has happened, or this is how it has happened. So basically you can say that Itihasas are nothing but recordings. Now Itihasa, in the list of Itihasa, we have 2 Itihasas that are there, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now Ramayana and Mahabharata, now why are they called as Itihasa? In fact, people call them to be mythological texts, right? Now, just 1 second, hold on, I'll just come. Okay. So, now Itihasa, though now for the Ramayana and Mahabharata, we call them as mythological stories or mythology, they cannot be myth. Myth is something which is fiction, but it cannot be so because they fall in the list of Itihasa. Valmiki has written the Ramayana, Vyasa has written the Mahabharata, rather compiled the Mahabharata. Now both these, Valmiki and Vyasa, they have done the work of reporters. That is the reason why, though the Mahabharata consists of more than 1 lakh verses, Ramayana is about roughly 24,000 verses, and though both the poets, Valmiki and Vyasa, have used their imagination, it is not, you can say, beyond a certain level they don't cross over, because Valmiki, why it is said so, why it should be Itihasa? Now, how much ever I tell you, you'll say, no, why, how can we believe that? Because Valmiki and Vyasa both were very much present during the time of Mahabharata and Ramayana. Valmiki was very much a part of Ramayana. When Rama, Sita, Lakshmana go for Vanavasa, they go to the hermitage of Valmiki. Later also Sita spends time in the hermitage of Valmiki. In the case of Mahabharata, During Yudhishthira's Rajasuya Yajna, Vyasa was very much present there. Then through Vyasa you have Dhritarashtra, Pandu and so on who were born, right? Ambalika, through Ambalika and Vyasa. So like this you have a lot of references wherein Valmiki, now I just give you a few examples, there can be many more, wherein Vyasa and Valmiki were very much present during the times of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Therefore whatever they saw around, same thing has been recorded. So basically if you see, they have done the work of reporters. How we have the newspaper, you have a news also. In the news that comes in a newspaper, no imagination or no fancy language is used. To the point, news is mentioned. Whatever has happened, so and so happened. Next, what action was being taken, who came, what he did, what she did, done. News is done. Similarly, Valmiki and Vyasa have done the same thing. Whatever they saw, itihasa, how it happened, the same thing has been presented. Yes, but later, Valmiki, of course, he was blessed with Divya Drishti by Narada. Now, that was nothing, it was not magic, but then it is said that Narada just told, I will show you the entire story of Ramayana so that you can write in the same order. Later he taught this to Lava and Kusha, and that's how they sing in the court of Rama. So therefore if you see itihasas, how things have actually happened, it has been recorded by Valmiki and Vyasa in the Ramayana and Mahabharata respectively, and for years together, like even today we are reading the Mahabharata, we are reading the Ramayana and so on. It has been influencing people worldwide. So this is what is itihasam. Next is only two itihasas. Now Ramayanam, if you see, has got 7 kandas in all, starting from the Balakanda till the Uttarakanda. There are a few controversies wherein they say that Uttarakanda is not a part of Ramayana. So some people usually, when you have the Ramayana Parayana, chanting part, at that time they conclude it after Yuddha Kanda, that is Rama's Pattabhisheka, Rama's coronation. But then we cannot skip Uttarakanda because that is also very much a story of the Ramayana. So then why people say or why people don't chant is, there are many reasons for this. So the topic is not Ramayana Mahabharata, but still because the topic has come, I will just highlight. Now usually Indian culture, or you can say Indian culture, Indian cinema, Indian books, whatever it is, literature, it believes that everything should end in a happy way, happy ending, right? So that's the reason you go to a movie also, you see initial part, starting something happens, in the interval something happens. Towards the end, usually it is a happy ending. In case if it is not a happy ending, then you will have part 2, right? Part 2, part 3 and so on. That comes in. So we wait, okay, what will happen in next part. But usually if you see all the movies that come in, they have a happy ending. Or even the books for that matter. Something, initially we go to a lot, initially everything is good, then you go to a lot of hardships, you have to fight a lot, and but towards ultimately you see the ending is happy. So this is what is, ending should always be happy so that the readers, the audience, everyone should feel positive and go back. If you feel something, if you see something negative, you read something negative, it has an impact and then it affects us, or it is quite disturbing. Therefore we used to believe that things should always end happily. Therefore the Ramayana, people say that when you have the chanting that takes place, it should conclude on a good way with Rama's coronation. Rama has returned back to Ayodhya, he becomes a king. But this doesn't mean that the reality, what happens later, it can be skipped about. So therefore Uttarakanda is mentioned. Second reason is why Uttarakanda is, you can say sometimes people don't consider it, is maybe it seems that the language that is mentioned in the Uttarakanda is different from the language that is used by Valmiki in the first 6 kandas. I personally, when I went through the Uttarakanda, I did not feel anything. Same chandas, Anushtup Chandaha, same language, everything is used. So then now what to believe? The third reason that is told is, now if you see, Valmiki starts writing the Ramayana after Rama has returned back to Ayodhya. That is after he becomes a king. So maybe he has written the first 6 kandas starting from the Balakanda till Rama's coronation in one go. But in between he had to take a gap because Uttarakanda, what happens is Lava-Kusha have not yet been born. Sita has not come to his hermitage. So he doesn't know the future part of the story, right? So maybe there a gap comes, and then later, after all the events take place, Sita comes, Lava-Kusha are born, they are grown up and so on. When he teaches, when Valmiki teaches both the boys, Lava and Kusha, the Ramayana, maybe at that time he would have added the Uttarakanda. So yes, this can be a reason that maybe there could have been a difference in the time period. Beyond that, maybe some other person has written the Uttarakanda. At least from my side, what I felt is I could not find any difference. in the language also. So this can be one valid reason that is told. So therefore, itihasam, this is how things have really happened. Valmiki was very much a witness to this, and that's how he has written the Ramayana. Now with regards to Mahabharata, more than 1 lakh verses. In fact, if you read the Mahabharata, you will know that. Now, how many of you have read the Mahabharata here? That is, you know the story of Mahabharata nicely. I'm not going to ask you questions, don't worry. Nobody has read the Mahabharata?
Yeah, we know more or less.
More or less, okay.
In
Yes.
general, yeah.
Yes. So, usually, if you, anyone who has read the original Mahabharata?
Sadly not.
No. Yes. Okay. So, you know about the stories of Mahabharata and so on. So, at least the rough story. But now, if you compare, say for example, from the Ramayana and the Mahabharatam, you ask 10 people, out of that, now all of us here also, about 40 people are there, right? If I ask you something from the Ramayana, you can immediately answer. If I ask you something from the Mahabharata, also you can answer. But then, if there are a few tricky questions, like maybe the names of all the 100 Kauravas or so, Duryodhana, Dushasana. Anyone else knows the names of all the 100 Kauravas?
No.
So here is where little, I'm not saying now, it becomes difficult. Even now, if I have to also know, I don't know them by heart. I have to also refer somewhere and tell you, right? So Duryodhana, Dushasana, we know. You have a sister, Dushala. Till then we know. Son-in-law, Jayadratha. Beyond this, it becomes very difficult to remember because the number of characters is more, the subject matter is more. So therefore, amongst the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, whereas in Ramayana you ask someone something, immediately they can answer. Or you prefer from the Ramayana or Mahabharata, people prefer reading the Ramayana. But that doesn't mean that we don't respect the Mahabharata equally. So basically, even amongst Itihasa Purana Bhyam, if you also tell, Ramayanam is considered to be the first priority, and then Mahabharata. So because Mahabharata little can seem to be a bit disturbing also, and so on, because of the fights and so much the brothers had to undergo and so on. But then Mahabharata, why I asked you this is, though people are not much aware of Mahabharata, Mahabharata has blessed the world with Pancharatnani, 5 gems. There are many more, but still 5 gems. Vishnu Sahasranama, Bhagavad Gita, Sanat Sujatiya, Yaksha Prashnam, and Viduraniti, Pancharatnani from the Srimad Mahabharata. There are a few things also that are told in the Mahabharata, like Shiva Gita, Rudra Gita, and so on, and but they don't fall in the list of Pancharatnani 5 gems, but yes, they are also a part of the Gita, a part of the Mahabharata only. So Mahabharata has made a huge contribution of blessing with Pancharatnani. So therefore, these are a few characteristics of Ramayana and Mahabharata, and that is the reason why they are very much a part, or you can say an integral part of Itihasam that is there. In our Indian knowledge systems, they form a very integral part. Okay, anyone you want to ask or say something? You've raised your hands. Sandhya ji, Avyukt. No.
Yes, I actually wanted to ask something.
Ask.
So, can you please give the Pancharatna once more?
Yes, I will. Yeah. Vishnu Sahasranama, the conversation between Bhishmacharya and Yudhishthira. Number 1. Second is Gita, conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. Third, Sanat Sujatiyam. It is between the Sanat Kumaras, the conversation. And Viduraniti, Vidura, he talks about niti or ethics that are to be followed by a king, or basically you can say rules that are followed in the society. And last is Yaksha Prashnam. A Yaksha, he asks about roughly 100 questions to Yudhishthira, and Yudhishthira answers all of that correctly. That is Yaksha Prashnam. So these are 5 Pancharatna. Okay?
Yes, I actually have one more doubt. So, in Yaksha Prashnam, who is Yaksha actually?
Yaksha is actually a demigod. Now, some people say that Yaksha is Yamaraja himself who comes there. Dharma himself who comes in the form of Yaksha. Yaksha is a demigod, and he is actually, so basically it's like a conversation between a father and son, because Yudhishthira is a son of Dharma, Yama himself. So Yama himself comes there in the form of Yaksha. He asks a few questions to Yudhishthira, and that's how he answers, about roughly 100 questions. Okay? So these are Pancharatnani, 5 gems which the Mahabharata has blessed us with. But if you see a few of that now, maybe the Vishnu Sahasranama, or you can say Bhagavad Gita, most of us are familiar, but it becomes, even Pandava Gita also is one Gita which is a part of Mahabharata. So there are like this many gems which the Mahabharata has blessed us with, lot of treasures which are there, and it is a part of Itihasam. So Srimad Ramayanam and Sri Mahabharatam. Now though Bhagavad Gita here has been mentioned, you have all these lists of things that I told you. There are many more also. Next, what is there? Agama Shastram. Agamas talk about mainly architecture and temple constructions. So you have a lot of Agama Shastram wherein so many temples are being constructed, so many pieces of architecture are there. So therefore, all this parts forms a part of Agama Shastram. So whatever we see around today, everything has got a reference in our scriptures, and that this is about Agama Shastras. Now, usually Itihasas or Puranas very easily we read. Agama Shastras we are not used to reading much, but yes, they also form a very integral part of our knowledge systems. What are they? There are a lot of Agamas. Let's have a look. Look at this. Now, all of you would have come across, maybe you go to a certain temple or so, where in certain temples they will have some pillars. I think you go to the Srirangam temple, right? Where do you have the musical pillars? Is it in Srirangam temple? Where? Somewhere, I don't remember. Some temple, they've got pillars.
Sujendram temple is there.
Which temple?
Sujendram temple.
Tirunelveli Nilayapur also. Tirunelveli Nilayapur Kovil also. That's Agamas.
Okay, and
Pillars are there in Madurai.
Madurai Meenakshi, sorry, not Srirangam, Madurai Meenakshi, correct. Madurai Meenakshi it is there, and you, I think it is
Tiruvananthapuram Padmanabha Swami
Padmanabha Swami.
temple.
Okay, so yes, I think yeah. So like this, those pillars they are there in a few temples.
Dharasuram, you have these musical steps.
Steps, correct. And I think in the Konark Sun Temple also you have some steps that are there. I think that is also steps only. I don't know whether they're musical, but those steps are also, they have some reference in the Agama Shastras. Then you have the famous clock that is there in the Konark Temple and so on. So all this that is there, now each speciality, maybe now you go to the Srirangam Temple or the Ranganatha Temple, Sriranga Ranganatha Temple or the Tiruvannamalai Temple and so on. So many, you can say there are certain marvels, right? Or if you go to the Kanchipuram, Tamil Nadu, you have the Ekambaranatha temple, you have so many Shivalingas around. So all this reference, it's not that just because I feel like doing something, I build. Like in our house, how we do. No, I like this, so I felt that I should buy and keep this. It doesn't happen in the case of architecture or temples. Now that is the reason why we should all go and visit temples. It's not just as a part of bhakti or religion. Or why people in ancient times used to tell us to go and visit temples or so, or visit our pieces of architecture. It's not only for bhakti, religion, spirituality, faith. That is one part. You go to a temple, you worship the Lord. For that you can do at home only, right? Someone will say, no, I'll worship the Lord at home. Why should I go to the temple? God is everywhere, I believe. Why you should go to temples is, one is okay, the religion part that is there. Second is, you say you will feel very positive. Third part, or I feel, which is, you can say, one of the important reasons is to experience all this. Whenever something has been constructed, we ourselves, we cannot do anything. We don't know why something is constructed also. In fact, we just, at least now we know that something has got some reference. There is a text called Agama Shastras. It has got reference of why things are built or constructed in such a way. Our level of knowledge is stooped to this level, right? We just know, okay, something is there. But why some things are even built in that context, or even our ancient architects, or you can say sculptors, whoever they were, how knowledgeable they used to be, that they have studied all these Agama Shastras, and that's how the construction and architecture has taken place. So the least that we can do is, or why our ancestors told that you go and visit different places, go and visit different temples, is to experience this and appreciate this. We cannot do anything, we cannot contribute anything, but still at least go and see the marvel in your own country, see the marvel in your own culture, at least go and appreciate that. This is the least that we can do, and that's the reason why. In fact, you go to any temple, any part of India, Bharata Desha, you see each temple has its unique way of construction. You look at a particular, say for example, Chidambara Nataraja, you go, Shiva is in a dancing form. Somewhere else you go, Shiva will be with Parvati. Somewhere else you go, it will be even the Shivalingas that are there. Correct. All these 12 Jyotirlingas you take, each Shivalinga has got a story behind. Each Jyotirlinga has got a story. Not all Shivalingas look alike, right? Normal Shivalinga is what we have at our homes or so, the normal one that is there. Kedarnath Shivalinga shape is totally different, right? Or the Trimbakeshwara Shivalinga, it is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, all three are there together, Trinity. So even the shapes also varies. Kedarnath Shivalinga is like the hoop of a bull. Shiva in the form of a bull was there. Pandavas go. Bhima, he holds that, and that's how the bull's back is being caught, and that's how the Kedarnath Shivalinga is in that shape. So they're like this for each Shivalingas. There are so many stories which are told. All this comes about in this Agama Shastras. So 77 Shakti Agamas, 28 Shiva Agamas, 108 Vishnu Agamas related to that respective gods and so on. So this is what is mentioned in Agama Shastra. Further,
Is that 108 Divya Desham mentioned is the same?
yes, to some extent it is same, but then Agama Shastra 108 Divya Desham, some people say, but then there is a slight, like, it can be a few up and down you can consider. So the list 108 Divya Deshams that we believe, that is what is there in the Agama Shastras majorly, but some people say that it also differs a bit, so a little up and down you can consider. Next is last is Siddhantam, Surya Siddhanta and so on. So what is Siddhanta? Siddhanta is nothing but mainly different kinds of philosophies. Now basically Agama Shastras talks a lot about art and architecture. So now you see, now you know why our streams, now even the different education streams or branches that we choose. You can choose arts, you can choose science, you can choose commerce, you can choose economics. Why do we have this different branches of knowledge? Even our ancient India also had all this. That's the reason you have something called Agamas, which appreciates art and architecture. Then you have a branch for science, which is Siddhantam. And languages, Bhasha, Itihasam, Puranas and so on. So today we feel very proud we have got many branches of knowledge. The same thing was there even then. In fact, you can say more in depth. Now Siddhanta, the word itself means some principle which are told, especially in the field of astronomy and cosmology, about the cosmos, universe and so on. So some people are very much interested, right, in the study of astronomy, or especially you can consider children also, they will, boys maybe, they have a lot of interest towards rockets, planets, sky and so on. So that is what mainly the Siddhantas cover, mainly in just one example has been mentioned here. In just the field of astronomy, cosmology, study of planets, sky and so on, we have about 18 Siddhantas. So Surya Siddhanta is, you can say, a very popular one. Pitamaha Siddhanta, Vyasa Siddhanta, Vasishta Siddhanta, Atri, Parashara, Kashyapa, Narada, Garga, Marichi, Manu, Angirasa, Lomasa, Paulisa, Chavana, Yavana, Bhrigu, Shaunaka. It is named after all these different sages. Now each of these Siddhantas, what they content, let's not go too deep in that because already our topic is Vedic literature, but then you look at the knowledge of all this, from where it has been originated. So I feel like telling you whatever I know, so let's not go very deep in this. Maybe later, when, if possible, let us take this topic all together for Siddhantas. So these are all the names of Siddhantas. For now you can consider it talks about different branches of knowledge. All these 18 Siddhantas mainly focus on astrology and cosmology. Next, you have other principles also which are there as a part of, you can say, now these don't fall in the category of Shrutis, Smritis, Itihasa, Purana, Agamas or Siddhanta, but they are different texts which are there. What is that? Let's have a look. Now all this at least once in a lifetime, maybe if not in detail, we must at least know the names of this. Luckily all of us, we are familiar with this, but then still we must study and know the depth of each of these. Further, so for the first is Sushruta Samhita. Sushruta is nothing but Ayurveda, medical science, Sushruta Samhita. Now, Sushruta Samhita has also, it talks a lot about even the concepts like plastic surgery and so on. So, that is Sushruta Samhita. Next, you have Aryabhattiyam, talks about astrophysics by Aryabhatta, Arthashastram by Chanakya, economics and administration.
Recording in progress.
Further, you have Pancha Siddhanta on astronomy, that is by Varahamihira. Next, you have Patanjali Yoga Shastram. We have already seen that, principles of Yoga Shastram. Charaka Samhita also talks about principles of Ayurveda. Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, they talk about plastic surgery. Then they talk about limb transplant that is being done. All that it is done. In fact, for a queen, Vishpala, I think it comes in the Rigvedic stories only. Last time I think I gave you a reference of this. Veeravanita Vishpala, you see, wherein a great lady warrior, Vishpala, she is a queen who fights with her husband and who fights along with her husband, not with her husband. Along with her husband, she fights, and at that time she gets injured in that battle and her leg had to be amputated, a new limb had to be kept in, wherein the two Ashwini Kumaras, they come here after studying Sushruta Samhita, Charaka Samhita, and they perform the surgery there. So today that we do all this amputation, limb transplant and so on, was done right from the Rigvedic times. Next is Rasendra Mangalam, alchemy by Nagarjuna, Vaisheshika Darshana, atomic theory. Maharshi Kanada has contributed to this, and Mahajnana Prakara by Madhva. Madhva, some people say Madhava. It means basically talks about what? Calculus. All scholarly engineering people who are there, maybe you will be famous with calculus, or this is some topic calculus which is little, you can say, people dread to even learn that. Anyone is familiar with calculus? Anyone has studied?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Integration and calculus.
Correct. So, avyuktya. Avyukt, yeah. So, calculus is something which a little, you can say not very tough also, but then little it
So
becomes...
differentiation.
Yes, differentiation. Correct. So, this is all already mentioned in our own scriptures. So, now you might feel that we are already studying all this, that is fine. But then, what will I do knowing all this? I've already studied calculus, say for example, or I've already studied atomic theory, atomic mass, electron, neutron, proton. Now what can I do knowing all this? Or maybe nobody is to blame, right? I didn't get a chance to learn all this. Nobody taught me in this way. What can I do now? The least that we can do is, you have already studied about this, at least we should know the names that in our own culture something like this was there. You know about calculus, that is fine. You should know that there is a text called Mahajnanayana Prakara, written by Madhava. Some people say even Madhava. Now this is different from Madhvacharya. This is a different person who has written. So at least the name of that text. We study modern economics, microeconomics, macroeconomics, demand, supply, this, that. Why not even know at least what is Arthashastra, Chanakya? Maybe it becomes very difficult to delve deep, but if we try, we can surely do that. So the thing is, the least is we should at least know the names, and the sad part is if you now look at yourselves, including me also, to some extent we don't even know the names, right? Such texts even exists. Like few of us now say, for example, Arthashastram or something like that, few of us we are already familiar. But then there are so many texts like that which we don't even know the names. We don't even know, okay, something like this existed, our own ancestral sages did this. So it's a very sad part that is there, but at least luckily all of us, we are into this. So nothing to blame or no one to blame. Like it becomes when nobody taught me this, nobody told me this, we did not safeguard things. My grandmother did not tell me, my father did not tell me, my teachers did not teach me. It becomes very easy to blame about, but then least is now at least we have got the chance, we should know about this. Maybe it becomes very difficult to delve deep because everything is in Sanskrit also, and then it's beyond very difficult to understand. Least is, why not at least put in efforts to know the name. You know the name, at least you know, okay, something like this exists. Today you know the name, tomorrow you will feel, okay, let me find out a bit. Now we have technology also, maybe you Google and see something. Tomorrow little you develop interest towards that, you read something. So this is how you tell it to 4 other people, they will also know. So this is how, at least from our part, we should try to contribute. Further, so this was all the basic different ways of knowledge systems that are mentioned. Further, So it is just a gist that is mentioned. Shruti, Smritis, Puranas, Itihasas, Agamas, Siddhanta. Siddhanta is different ways of philosophy. Further, you have the concept of now just an example from Aryabhatiya is mentioned here. What exactly Aryabhatta tells in Aryabhatiya? Aryabhatiya talks about physics, astrophysics, so how two bodies move. Now all of us, at least basic science, all of us would have studied, or those who have studied deep about physics, you will know. Bhakte viloma vivare gati yoge नानुलोम विवरे द्वौ गत्यन्तरेण लब्धौ द्वियोगकालावति तैष्यौ. What it means is, the meaning is given. Two bodies move about in opposite direction. So this is nothing but the formula. Speed, time, distance. All of us, we study this in maths also, right? Time, distance. So this is the same thing which Aryabhatiya also mentions. Speed is equal to distance upon time. This formula that is there, the same thing is mentioned in easy words. We study it in physics also, we study it in maths also. For us, very easy, the formula comes in, speed is equal to distance upon time. But there also you have so many questions, right? Train goes in this direction, that direction, this is the speed of the train, calculated distance, time. Same thing Aryabhatiya is mentioned in this physics also. So you have a lot of rules and images. With the help of images and balls, it has been mentioned. Two bodies are there, how it passes distance upon time, and so on. So such images, if you see, if you have your science textbooks also, we had such pictures in that. Same thing has been mentioned, only the mention of Aryabhatta was not there much. But I think in some books, in fact in some school books also nowadays, the mention, it is the name of Aryabhatta is there, wherein he mentions all this Aryabhatiya. So this is how he gives a formula of speed is equal to distance upon time. Next, just an example. We know about this, wherein Galileo, he has also talked about this concept that is there, but Aryabhatta had given this right before. So though we know that, okay, we know for Galileo for his contributions, we must also know about Aryabhatta. So here again, as I repeat, there is no point in questioning, oh, Galileo did it later, our Aryabhatta has done it first, all credits should go to him. More than fighting about credits, you see that so many times we Indians ourselves, we don't know who has contributed what, but now at least we know, so let us feel proud about it. We need not go and fight for credits also. Someone got the credits, they took them away, times change and people, everyone knows about it, then maybe we can fight. But the thing is, most of us, we have no right to even fight because we don't know about things too. Now luckily we know little, so this formula which we study in this branch of kinematics or Galileo's contributions, already Aryabhatta has mentioned in his book Aryabhatiya, that talks about astrophysics and mainly the science of physics. Bhautika Shastram is physics. Next, like this, just few examples are mentioned so that we can relate to our lives today. Further, again the same formula is mentioned here, what Galileo has mentioned and what Aryabhatta has mentioned. Galileo, he found the principles and he had his book Two New Sciences. Aryabhatta founded this in Aryabhatiya. How bodies move about, that is nothing but the science of kinematics. Next. So along with Galileo's contribution, we must also know about Aryabhatta. That is the concluding point. Next is done. So with this is, you can say, an introduction that starts from Shrutis. Our main topic is Shrutis, Vedic literature. Do not forget that. When we are delving deep into Shrutis, Smritis, Itihasas, Puranas, Agamas, Siddhantas, ultimately just two examples, and other branches of knowledge like Sushruta Samhita, Charaka Samhita, Arthashastra, Aryabhatiya, and so on. We must never forget that. Vaisheshika Darshana, that our main topic is the Vedas, which form a part of Shrutis. That is, we are just hardly about 10% is what we are studying from the Indian knowledge systems. That is our topic. In that also hardly 10% we are seeing. Just the introduction, just delving deep into a topic, but you see the depth of each of these topics. So much is there to see. Okay, now let's continue with Vedic literature alone. So basically, now all this that I was telling you right from the last lecture and today also majorly was from where this concept of Shrutis or Vedas, how they form a part of our literature, what exactly they mean, and so on. So the basis of our knowledge systems. Now the main topic is Shruti. So this we had already seen. Shruti is Shravanam, what you listen, and how these mantras are chanted. Vedic literature mainly is divided into 4 parts: Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. In all our previous references, we have reference of only 3 Vedas. Later, Atharva Veda was added. Now, Vedas, before, they were never available. They were only available like very roughly. It was all passed on through oral tradition, whereas only after Veda Vyasa comes in, he does a work of compilation, that is dividing the Vedas into 4 parts, and before that they were never available in a written form. In fact, if you see Vedic knowledge that is there, it is past, maybe you can consider about 100 or 200 years before. Only now you go to the market, you go to a bookshop or so, you can buy books of Vedas. Before that, it seems that you used to not even get books. The reason is everything was being passed on through oral tradition. Even today we have a few Veda Pathshalas, Gurukulas and so on. So there they don't use books. It is just that the Guru chants, the Shishya repeats. I think told you the 7-part way, right, of repeating and memorizing verses. So that's how people used to learn in the Gurukula. So there used to be no question of books at all. Everything is passed on through oral tradition, so you don't need anything in writing. But now, lately now, everything is available in a written form, but whatever is available today in front of us, you can consider that to be hardly 1 to 2%. We have lost everything in the course of time. Again here, we need not blame foreign invasions also, because we lost a lot of that maybe in burning of universities or so. But then for Vedas, you cannot consider, because when universities were like Nalanda, Takshashila, they were burned down, there were a lot of books and manuscripts there. Vedas were mostly passed on through oral tradition. So the question doesn't come that maybe our books were burned there. Of course, there can be a few reference books, but mainly how then did we lose a lot of things is because people in the later generations or even in our own times, how many of us actually learn? We don't learn, right? So that's how we just go. It just goes about. Veena ji, I'll tell you towards the end. I'll tell you. They are not 7 steps. It is the Saptapadi method. I'll tell you later. Okay. So, oral tradition, when things are being passed on, there came to be certain point wherein people stopped learning. So therefore, that's how things just went away. Even though a person is ready to teach, if you don't have shishyas to learn, it's gone, right? And then you don't have anyone to learn, that's how the entire generation goes away. And then the next generations, nobody could learn. Of course, in today's times, we have a few people who are doing this. So, but the number is very few. So therefore, we must always safeguard our own ancient systems, our own Vedas. Otherwise, we'll just lose. Like you see for yourself, not only for the Vedas. In general, you see so many things today, little we know. Our children don't know even that. If you know about something, but there is one thing which we have to believe here, is that very nicely we blame, right? No, my parents never taught me, my grandparents never taught me. Nobody needs to teach you anything. If you have some interest, you can learn it for yourself. But so always blaming our previous generations is not one thing which we do. Like, no, some foreign invaders, they came. And there are so many people, right? They tell this, no, they came, they took away everything. Then my previous generations, they did not teach me anything. My teachers were not good, they did not tell me. It's very easy to blame. Or I never got a chance. If you need to learn something, you have to get a chance. Otherwise, it doesn't happen, right? So therefore, at least now that we know something about this, it is never late to start. We can at least start now. So therefore, things like the Vedas also, in between when it was not available in a written form, but still we have lost a bit because people stopped learning it and so on. Then further, these mantras were, now all the mantras in the Vedas, they were seen by sages. So basically it's not written. It is said to be the breath of the Lord. You don't have anything. Who wrote the Vedic text? There is no creator at all. By Brahma. Brahma, he is the one who has created the texts that are there, the mantras which are being chanted. It is said to be the breath of the Lord Vishnu. This reference comes in the Purusha Sukta. And they were seen by the sages. That's how, seen in the sense they could visualize it. That's how it's called mantra drishte, the scene in front of them. And because you don't have anyone who has written that, it's not written by a man, by a purusha, therefore it is apaurushaya. Apaurushaya vakyam vedaha. So what vedavak, when we say, since it is told by the Vedas, there is no place for any further argument. Vedavak has been mentioned in the Vedas. Now why Vedavak, or why the authority of the Vedas is considered, is a very practical reason is it is not man-made. It's not who told. Whenever someone asks us something, who told you this? Where the evidence is given? Show me. Who told? Immediately we ask, right? Who told? Who told? We ask. In the case of the Vedas, there is no person. There is no question of who told. It's not a person at all. It's just apaurushaya. It's not created by man. It's believed to be the breath of the Lord. So now you see, this itself is so amazing. It is not man-made. No one has made it. We believe that the Creator has made so. We believe that the Vedas are the breath of the Lord. But we don't know who has done what, but still that is available. This itself is a great marvel, right? We don't know who's the Creator. We know that it is not man-made. We know it is the breath of the Lord. We believe that it is done by the Creator Brahma. More than this we don't know, but still today we can find the texts that are there. We do chant the Vedas, we know the Vedic books are there. This itself is the greatest marvel. Maybe we don't have answers to many questions, but this itself shows the supreme energy that is there. And surely, from where did all this come? If you maybe closely research, you might get some answers, but till date at least it is believed that the Vedas are apaurushaya. Later also it is going to be believed, it's not going to change or so, but still some people, they will do a lot of research on this. But the conclusion is that apaurushaya, when it has been passed down right from the Lord himself, right from Lord Brahma himself, we believe, from the Creator, through his Manasa Putras, the various sages, Marichi, Yatri and so on, and then ultimately to different sages for generations together in different patashalas through different gurus. Today what little is available, that we must preserve, learn and pass it on. So this is what is the duty which we have to do. Now next, what exactly is the Vedas? Now with regards to the date of the Vedas, nobody has written the Vedas, so there is no question of dating it, right? And nor it is that, okay, even the Vedas also are compiled in which yuga the Vedas compiled? Anyone knows? Compiled which yuga? You have 4 yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. Which yuga? Anyone can guess? In Treta Yuga, no.
Dwapar Yuga,
Sure, Dwapara Yuga?
Vedvyas.
Yes, Vedavyasa. Now Vedavyasa does the work of compilation in every Dwapara Yuga. The current that we have is the current Vedas that all of us are familiar with, that we chant, is the 28th Dwapara Yuga, which is compiled by Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. This is what we know. So there are about 28. Now it doesn't mean that, okay, so does it mean that every Dwapara Yuga the content or the subject matter of Vedas changes? It will not be that totally 100% it goes out and comes. But little changes to happen, or the compilation. Okay, this is a part of Rig Veda, this is a part of Yajur Veda. Now all that we follow now, it is what has been done in the previous, that is the 28th Dwapara Yuga. Now that is the previous Dwapara Yuga, previous Yuga. Now it is the Kali Yuga. So in the next Dwapara Yuga it will be done by another Vyasa who comes in. All these predictions are given in the Puranas. So if you see, now why this happens, why the subject matter changes? Now in the course of time, we have all our school books, college books. After roughly about 5-6 years, or sometimes not every year maybe, but frequently you see the syllabus is changed, right? How it happens? Maybe you see, now this is so outdated, or certain topics have to be excluded, certain topics have to be included. So that's how it undergoes changes. Roughly you can compare to this, but then with the Vedas also it's somewhat similar you can say, but that doesn't mean that totally all the subject matter will be removed and something totally out of the box will be put in. It's not like that, but little changes are made, or more than changes, the original matter is not changed, the compilation changes. Okay, all these mantras are a part of Rig Veda, all this is a part of Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. Just as Atharva Veda was included later, okay, some principles of astrology, some principles of Ayurveda, though it is majorly a part of Rig Veda, little comes in Atharva Veda also. So therefore, okay, this consists a part of Atharva Veda. Earlier people did not know that the 4th Veda exists. In fact, Mahabharata is considered to be the 5th Veda. Though it doesn't fall in the category of Vedas, Bharatam Panchamo Vedaha. This is what is said. So the first 3 Vedas were there initially. Then in the course of time, fourth Veda was added. So like this, depending on the time and depending on the subject matter also, sometimes if you, and the yugas, now every yuga you see almost, you can say lakhs and crores of verses, years, right, for every yuga. So obviously some changes, some compilation has to be made. So that's the reason why little compilation is being made. So therefore it is not that it has been created by one person. It's a continuous process wherein in every Dwapara Yuga only the compilation takes place. And of course still you have some people who have done, like Max Mueller and so on. There are a few scholars who roughly do their own research, and you have some references that are made, but apart from that usually you cannot find the date also. Like roughly there are a lot of differences which are there. Okay, so with this, time is up. Next time at least let us finish this topic of Vedas and start with the next topic. Okay, anyone wants to ask or say something, stay back, others can leave.